Will history repeat itself with my predictions? I'll tell you exactly what I mean in just a second. But let's get into these predictions for the quarterfinals of the college football playoff. Also, I'll go through and give you my predictions for the rest of the playoff. But we'll put a little bit more time into these second round games, into these quarterfinal matchups. Of course, we got the first round games that were maybe not too exciting for some people, mostly blowouts. I mean, pretty much all blowouts. If you look at my predictions from the first round, I went 3 for 4. I thought there was going to be an upset in there. I went with Indiana to upset Notre Dame. Obviously missed that pick. But I guess that was the closest game to be. I would argue that game, or maybe the Texas-Clemson game, was closest to being an upset. If you were talking about the last couple of minutes, if Indiana does get that 2-point conversion, and then they have a chance to kick an onside kick to have the ball with a chance to tie the game. So that one was, I guess, closer at the end. But if you go back a little bit further in the game, the Texas-Clemson game was more competitive, I guess. But yeah, those are the two games that weren't, I would say, complete blowouts. Penn State, SMU, complete blowout. Ohio State, Tennessee, complete blowout. I think we're going to see at least 2 competitive games in the quarterfinals. Maybe we get 3 or 4. Who knows? I hope we do. I think it's very possible we get 3 of the 4 that are at least a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. So let's start with a look at the updated bracket. So here it is, and now we'll start with our first game, the Friday night game, the New Year's Eve matchup on Tuesday. Again, New Year's Eve, 7:30 Eastern Time. This game will be on ESPN. I wonder if they did the little bit earlier start for this one because of New Year's. Maybe they're hoping that it'll be over before New Year's and all that. But Penn State is favored by 10.5 points in this game, which, it makes sense, especially after watching what they did to SMU. This one is not a very hard prediction for me to make. I think Boise State's offense they're too one-dimensional to go up against a really good defense like this, and they're going to struggle to move the ball. Genty I'm sure he'll get some good runs in this game, and maybe he'll bust off a long one for a long touchdown, something like that. But I don't think they're going to be able to sustain drives. I don't think they're going to be able to score a lot of points in this game. Maybe 17 points for them. And I think Penn State can pass that pretty easily. Maybe a 27-17 game, something like that. I think Vegas does have it about right. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think Boise State's a solid team, but I don't think it's going to be. And it really will come down to how well they play, because SMU played terrible against Penn State. If they play really well, that's a much, much closer game. Probably a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. I don't think they win that game, but it's competitive. And so if Boise State plays really well, I think this game will be competitive. If they don't play well and Penn State plays really well, then that's how you wind up with another blowout. And I think that could happen. But if Boise State plays their A game in this one, I think they can keep it within about 10 points. But at the end of the day, Penn State just too much. I got to go Nittany Lions here in this one. So you look at the bracket, that'll put Penn State into the Orange Bowl. Next matchup, we're just going to go in order of when these games are going to be played. The early game on New Year's Day. This one's on ESPN as well. I think all these games are on ESPN. Texas favored by, and by the way, how weird was it to have the games last week on TNT, but it was like watching an ESPN game. That just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't know why they did that. I guess they just outbid them for the, I don't know. That was really, really weird. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Anyways, back to the game. Texas favored by 13.5. I actually think this one has a chance to be closer. Like, if you're asking me which game will be closer, Texas, Arizona State, or Boise State, Penn State, I think that this game will be closer than the Boise State, Penn State game, or at least has a much better chance of being a close game. 13.5 points, that's a big, big spread. Texas, I know they've got a really good defense. Arizona State, though, it's the team playing with a lot of momentum. You look at what they've done down the stretch. The offense is explosive. Cam Scatterbo, a really good running back. I know you're going up against a very good Texas defense, but I think Arizona State, with the extra time to prepare, they will scheme up some plays. They will have a good game plan. I think they'll score some points in this game. I think ultimately it'll be kind of similar to the Texas-Clemson game, where it will be close in the fourth quarter, maybe a touchdown game, and then Texas winds up winning by a couple of touchdowns, something like that. So yeah, I think score-wise, it's very similar to the Penn State-Boise State game. Maybe a little bit more points in this one, but I think the potential for a close game, a really close game, is a little bit higher with this one because I think Arizona State's a good football team. I think Arizona State's a better team than Boise State, although I think Texas is better than Penn State. But again, I think that because of their offense, Arizona State's offense, and the creativity that they'll have and not being so one-dimensional like Boise State, I think that's going to give them a chance to make this a game. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think Texas wins it by 10 to 14 points, something like that. All right, so that puts Texas into the Cotton Bowl. Next, we go to the Rose Bowl, Ohio State, Oregon. This one will be on ESPN. Again, all these games on ESPN. This one will be at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock Eastern time. Ohio State favored by 2.5. This is a tough one for me. So let's go back to what I said at the very beginning of the video. I said maybe history repeating itself. If you follow my channel, if you followed me last year, I picked Michigan preseason to win the national championship. I picked Michigan every single week during the season. Michigan was my pick to win it all. And then when the bracket came out, I had this weird feeling. I just felt like Alabama, after watching them get the miracle against Auburn, after winning the SEC championship, I just felt like it was just their year. They were going to win it. And so I switched my pick. Well, the same thing happened this year. Ohio State, I picked them to win the national championship in the preseason, picked them all year long. Even after they lost to Oregon, I was still picking Ohio State to win the national championship. Then they lost to Michigan, and I changed my prediction. I kind of got spooked by that game and didn't know, if Ohio State was going to really get back to what I thought they could be, and they did that against Tennessee. If that Ohio State team shows up, and I think I said this the other day, Ohio State will win the national championship. I think if they play their A-plus game, they are the best team in all of college football, and I think they're going to win the national championship. And I think they're going to play really well again against Oregon. You wonder about all this time off for Oregon. We think about that being a positive, but when you're rolling like the Ducks have been rolling this year, could that potentially hurt them? Do they lose a little bit of momentum? Maybe they come out starting slow. I think that's something to keep an eye on. Again, it is an advantage, but it's, I wonder how much of an advantage when, again, you were playing so well. You're undefeated. Again, I have nothing against Oregon. I think this will be a great matchup, but I think Ohio State plays their A game. They're just the better team. I think they're the best team in college football, like I've thought all year long until I saw that Michigan disaster. And so I'm going with the Buckeyes. I think they learned their lesson against Michigan. They came out much more aggressive against Tennessee. I think you'll see that again in this game. And I think Ohio State wins. So going with the Buckeyes to advance to play Texas. Then on the other side of the bracket, in the Sugar Bowl, Georgia, Notre Dame, this is the toughest one for me. I feel pretty good about my other 3 picks. I really do. This is the toughest one for me. The game will be at 8:45 Eastern time on ESPN. Georgia favored by 1.5. I mean, I don't know about Georgia in the quarterback position. Gunnar Stockton, how well will he play against a very good Notre Dame defense? I think we saw the athletes from Notre Dame against Indiana. This is athletically, I think they can match up with Georgia. I think this is a game of just a lot of talent on the field. Is an advantage with Gunnar Stockton? Is that an advantage, having a guy that you have no film on, really? And maybe they don't know what to expect from him. It's just a tough one. Georgia's been so inconsistent this year. If they play the way they played against Texas, especially defensively, I think they win this game. If they play the way they played in some of the other games, like Ole Miss, I think they lose this game. So which Georgia team is going to show up? I just kind of trust Kirby Smart, especially with the extra time to prepare. I think he's going to have that defense locked in, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think the Georgia defense is going to play so well in this game that it'll be enough to get them a win. I don't think they score a whole lot. I think this is a low-scoring game, but the defense really shuts down Notre Dame. They play really well on that side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Georgia to get this win. So then we get the final games here. Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Penn State. And just like I've always done, I'm going to quickly pick these games because they're hypothetical matchups, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time really digging into these games. But I kind of already gave my pick away. Ohio State, I said, if they play their A game, they are the best team in college football. What really bugs me is I believe that Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas are the 3 best teams, and 3 teams that have the best chance to win a national championship, and they're all on the left side of the bracket. Would love to see Ohio State, Texas in the national championship. I think that would be a great matchup. I think this will be a really good game. But I think if they play their A game, Ohio State is the best team, and they squeak by Texas in a classic matchup. Going with Ohio State there. And Georgia, Penn State, I think, again, Georgia's defense is going to be too much. Penn State, I know they're a lot better this year on offense, but I think Georgia gets this one done. Again, this is like a coin flip. I don't know. I may change my pick if we do get this matchup. But right now I'm going with Georgia. and then I'm going with Ohio State to win it all. So I'm going back to what I predicted in the preseason, what I picked all season long. I know a lot of people are saying the same thing that I'm saying. They're saying, well, this is the most talented team. If they play the way that they did against Tennessee, they should win the national championship. That's what I said all year. But again, the Michigan game just, I don't know what to think about this team after that game. But now they're back to being the team I thought they would be. And I think that they will be the team to win the national championship. Although it's a tough road with Oregon and then potentially Texas in their next 2 games before they even get to the national championship. But those are my updated predictions. Would love to get your thoughts, your predictions. Let me know what you think down in the comments below.